In this lesson, we're going to learn how to build a pipeline. We will learn how to set up file-based origins and destinations. Let's get started. We're going to use the first pipeline as a starter for our pipeline that we built earlier in the Setup a Deployment video. If this is your first time building a pipeline, I highly recommend that you watch the Setup a Deployment video where we show you how to get your environment ready and build a basic pipeline. Going back to our first pipeline, let's open it up. We're going to delete the data generator origin, and we'll choose a new origin, the directory origin. Let's configure the directory origin by setting the file's directory in the file name pattern. In our case, it will be the Sumato data directory and the file name pattern will be CSV files. Next, let's configure the data format. This part of the configuration will let the origin know how to parse the data. We'll select Delimited with a header line. You see that there are many different types of CSV delimiter format types, but we'll keep it as default CSV. Next, let's validate. Validating a pipeline is similar to compiling code when you develop a program. Although the canvas will give you validation warnings as you develop a pipeline, known as implicit validation, validating a pipeline explicitly will ensure that the values you entered, such as a URI, are reachable. Now that our pipeline is valid, let's preview the pipeline. Previewing a pipeline will execute all of the stages of the pipeline without writing data to the destinations. By default, a batch of 10 records will be sourced by the origin. You can choose which stage to run the preview through and optionally select to write the preview data to the destinations. When you run the preview, you'll be able to inspect each record field by field. You can select a stage in the pipeline and inspect the input data and output data for that stage. Let's close the preview. And now let's add a processor to add some logic to our pipeline. We'll choose the Stream Selector processor, which will allow us to split our data into streams based on conditions. In our case, we want to discard or trash non-useful records and write the data that we want to a file destination. In the Stream Selector, let's add a condition. Notice that a second output selector was added to the processor on the canvas. In the new condition, we want to select the records that have very good and excellent ratings, which we'll save to a file and discard the rest. Note that we're using the StreamSets expression language here to set our expressions. We cover this in a separate video lesson. Next, let's add the local FS destination, and we'll connect it to the first stream. We'll need to configure the data format to let the destination know how to write the records. In our case, we'll select JSON. We also want to configure the output files. We'll remove the directory template pattern and just leave the temp directory. I want to verify one more thing. Did we use the correct field name? Let's check the schema. It looks like we need to fix the name. Next, let's validate and preview. We can see that some records are being preserved while others are being discarded. Now let's do a test run of the pipeline. This will execute the pipeline end-to-end and write data to the destinations. We can see that data is being read and written with no errors. Let's stop the test run. history of test runs are preserved and we can see metrics across our pipeline. Metrics include record count, record throughput, and other statistics. We can also see how much time the pipeline spent in each stage by looking at the stage batch processing timer circle graph. To verify that the data was written, we need to log into the data collector that executed the test run. In our lab environment, we can check this by logging into the correct Docker container and navigating to that container's temp directory. In other lessons, we cover monitoring and analyzing metrics and statistics in more detail. To conclude, in this video, we built a file origin and file destination pipeline with some simple logic. We also learned how to validate, preview, and test run a pipeline. Now it's your turn to try.